Have you ever wondered if a single moment of obedience could shift the atmosphere around your life? Today's message is for the chosen ones who unknowingly stepped into divine alignment this morning. What seemed like a simple action, a quiet prayer, an act of kindness, or a decision to trust God may have triggered something extraordinary in the spiritual realm. Heaven is moving, doors are repositioning, and blessings are being redirected because of your faithfulness. Stay with this message, because what God is revealing today may completely change how you see your current season. You woke up this morning believing it would be an ordinary day. The routine felt familiar. The responsibilities were the same. The challenges waiting for you had not disappeared overnight. Yet there was one thing you did that seemed so small, so unnoticed, that you almost dismissed it as meaningless. Maybe it was a prayer whispered before getting out of bed. Maybe it was choosing gratitude instead of frustration. And maybe it was resisting a temptation that had followed you for weeks. Maybe it was forgiving someone who never apologized. Whatever it was, heaven noticed what the world overlooked. Many people assume that God only responds to grand gestures, dramatic sacrifices, or public displays of faith. But throughout history, God has consistently revealed that He pays close attention to the hidden moments that nobody else sees. He notices the decision to remain faithful when giving up would be easier. He notices the tears shed in private. He notices the effort made when there is no applause. What happened this morning was not measured by its size, but by the condition of your heart when you did it. The chosen often underestimate the value of their obedience because they are focused on what they have not achieved yet. They compare their progress to others and wonder why their breakthrough seems delayed. Yet God measures things differently. While people focus on outcomes, God focuses on alignment. While people look at appearances, God examines motives. The action you took this morning may have looked ordinary on the surface, but spiritually it carried a weight that exceeded your understanding. There are moments when a single act of faith becomes a turning point, not because the action itself is extraordinary, but because it demonstrates trust. Trust is one of the most powerful things a believer can offer to God. When you choose faith over fear, you send a message into the spiritual realm that you still believe despite uncertainty. When you continue walking forward without visible evidence, you prove that your confidence is not based on circumstances, but on divine promises. Perhaps you felt weak when you made that decision. Perhaps you did not feel spiritual or strong. That is often how God works. He specializes in using simple acts to produce significant outcomes. What seemed insignificant to you carried the fragrance of sincerity. Heaven recognizes genuine faith immediately. Why? It cannot be manufactured, rehearsed, or imitated. It comes from a heart that continues to seek God even when answers have not arrived. What makes this moment important is that your action was not driven by pressure or recognition. Nobody forced you. Nobody was watching. There was no guarantee of immediate reward, yet you chose obedience anyway. That choice separated you from the crowd. Many people wait for perfect conditions before responding to God, but chosen individuals move when they sense His direction, even when the path ahead is unclear. The spiritual realm often responds to decisions long before physical evidence appears. Seeds begin growing beneath the soil before anyone sees a harvest. Doors begin moving before they visibly open. Answers begin forming before they arrive. What you did this morning may have started a process that is already unfolding beyond your sight. The reason it caught heaven's attention is because it revealed a level of faithfulness that God can trust. With greater responsibility. It revealed a willingness to obey without needing constant confirmation. It revealed a heart that remains available even during seasons of waiting. It revealed that despite the disappointments, delays, and unanswered questions, you still chose to honor God when it would have been easier to do otherwise. It revealed that despite the disappointments, delays, and unanswered questions, you still chose to honor God when it would have been easier to do otherwise. That is why the next truth is so important. God saw your heart before He saw your actions. While others may only notice what you do, God always begins by examining why you do it. Long before your hands moved, your words were spoken, or your decision was made, He was already looking at the condition of your heart. Many people spend their lives trying to impress others with visible achievements, but God is not moved by appearances alone. He sees beyond the performance. He sees beyond the smile you show to the world. He sees beyond the image you maintain. He sees the silent battles, the private prayers, the moments when you questioned yourself, and the times when you kept going even when nobody encouraged you. This morning, when you made that seemingly simple choice, heaven was not merely observing the action itself. Heaven was responding to the sincerity behind it. God knew the struggle it took for you to reach that moment. He knew the doubts you fought through before deciding to trust Him again. He knew the disappointment you carried from previous seasons. He knew how many times you felt ignored, forgotten, or overlooked. Yet despite all of that, something inside you refused to walk away. Something inside you continued believing that God was still working, even when evidence seemed absent. That is what captured heaven's attention. It was not perfection. It was persistence. It was not flawless faith. It was faith that refused to die. God is not searching for people who never struggle. He is searching for people whose hearts remain open even while they struggle. The chosen often think God is disappointed because they are not stronger, faster, or more successful. Yet many times God is pleased because they continue showing up despite carrying heavy burdens. There are people who perform religious actions while their hearts remain distant. Then there are those who may feel weak, exhausted, and uncertain, but their hearts genuinely long for God. Heaven always knows the difference. This morning, God recognized something authentic within you. He saw that your desire to obey Him was real. He saw that your trust was genuine. He saw that your decision was not motivated by selfish ambition, but by a sincere desire to remain aligned with His will. The beautiful thing about God is that He notices intentions that no human being can see. People may misunderstand you. They may judge your choices. They may question your motives. But God knows the complete story. He knows the sacrifice. CS you never mention. He knows the pain you hide. He knows the prayers you have repeated countless times. He knows the promises you are still holding on to. Every detail is visible to Him. This is why some blessings arrive in ways that surprise everyone around you. People only see the sudden breakthrough, but they do not see the years of faithfulness that came before it. They see the open door, but they do not see the countless moments when you chose integrity over compromise. They see the reward, but they do not see the private surrender that prepared you to receive it. God does. He remembers every act of obedience that others ignored. Right now, there may be areas of your life where you feel unnoticed. You may wonder if your efforts matter. You may question whether your prayers are making any difference. Yet the fact that God saw your heart this morning should remind you that nothing done with sincere faith is ever wasted. Every choice rooted in trust leaves an imprint in the spiritual realm. Every act of obedience becomes part of a larger story that God is writing. What makes this moment significant is that your heart communicated something powerful to heaven. It declared that you still trust God despite uncertainty. It declared that your faith remains alive despite delays. It declared that your commitment remains intact despite challenges. And when God sees a heart that remains faithful under pressure, He often begins preparing the next stage of that person's journey, because a heart that can be trusted in hidden seasons is a heart that can be trusted with greater assignments, because a heart that can be trusted in hidden seasons is a heart that can be trusted with greater assignments. This is where many chosen ones fail to realize what truly happened this morning. Your decision did more than demonstrate faithfulness. It interrupted something that had been operating against your progress for far longer than you knew. Your morning decision interrupted a cycle of delay. There are seasons when life feels as though it is moving in circles. You pray, but answers seem distant. You work hard, but results appear minimal. You make progress, only to encounter another obstacle. After a while, it becomes tempting to believe that nothing will ever change. Many people begin accepting delay as their permanent reality. They lower their expectations. They stop anticipating breakthroughs. They convince themselves that this is simply how life will always be. But God never intended for delay to become your identity. Delay may have been part of your season, but it was never meant to become your destination. What often keeps people trapped is not a lack of opportunity, but a lack of alignment. The moment alignment is restored, movement begins. This morning, whether you realized it or not, you stepped into a position that created movement where stagnation had existed. Perhaps your decision seemed small. Maybe you chose obedience when compromise would have been easier. Maybe you finally surrendered an area of your life that you had been holding on to. Maybe you responded with faith instead of fear. Whatever the action was, it represented a shift. And spiritual shifts frequently occur before physical changes become visible. Think about how quickly a locked door opens once the correct key is inserted. The door may have remained closed for years, but the moment the right key enters the lock, everything changes. The delay was not because the door was impossible to open. The delay existed because the necessary alignment had not yet occurred. In the same way, your decision this morning acted like a key. It touched something in the spiritual realm that had been waiting for your response. Many chosen individuals do not understand how close they often are to breakthrough. Because they cannot see what is happening behind the scenes, they assume nothing is moving. Yet God is constantly arranging circumstances, preparing opportunities, and positioning people. Please. There are moments when one act of obedience accelerates a process that has been developing for months or even years. What made your decision powerful was not merely the action itself, but the timing of it. God understands timing in ways human beings never can. He knows when a lesson has been learned. He knows when preparation has been completed. He knows when a person is ready for the next level. This morning may have been one of those moments when heaven recognized that you had reached a point of readiness. The cycle of delay often feeds on fear, hesitation, doubt, and resistance. Every time a person chooses faith instead of fear, the cycle weakens. Every time they trust God despite uncertainty, the cycle loses influence. Every time they obey when it feels uncomfortable, they move closer to the breakthrough waiting on the other side. Your decision today was another step in that direction. What is remarkable is that many delays are broken quietly. There is no dramatic announcement. There is no visible sign immediately afterward. Life may appear exactly the same for a period of time. The same surroundings remain. The same responsibilities continue. Yet beneath the surface, something has changed. A process has begun. A chain has been disrupted. A barrier has started to weaken. This is why you should never underestimate moments of obedience. What appears insignificant in the natural realm can create massive consequences in the spiritual realm. Heaven understands connections that human eyes cannot see. God knows how one decision can influence future opportunities, relationships, assignments, and blessings that have not yet entered your life. The reason this matters so much is because your future is not being determined solely by what you see today. It is being shaped by the decisions you make when nobody else understands their importance. This morning, you made a choice that aligned you more closely with God's direction. That alignment created movement. It uptrend patterns that had attempted to slow your progress. It challenged limitations that had lingered longer than necessary. It signaled to heaven that you were ready to move forward rather than remain where you had been. It signaled to heaven that you were ready to move forward rather than remain where you had been. And when heaven receives that signal from a willing and obedient heart, activity begins in places that human eyes cannot see. This is why the next truth carries such significance. Angels were released because of your obedience. Many people think of obedience only in terms of personal discipline, but obedience has spiritual consequences that extend far beyond what is visible. Throughout life, there are moments when a simple act of faith creates movement in the unseen realm. God has established order within His creation, and when His children align themselves with His direction, heaven responds. What happened this morning was not ignored. It was recognized. Your choice became part of a greater spiritual process already unfolding around your life. The chosen often underestimate the influence of their decisions because they judge situations according to what they can immediately observe. If nothing dramatic happens within a few minutes or hours, they assume nothing happened at all. But spiritual activity rarely depends upon human visibility. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean movement is absent. Just because you cannot hear instructions being given in heaven does not mean heaven is silent. When you obey God, even in small matters, you create opportunities for divine intervention. Obedience demonstrates trust. It demonstrates surrender. It demonstrates that you are willing to cooperate with God's purpose rather than resist it. That willingness becomes a powerful invitation for heavenly assistance. Perhaps this morning you felt that your action was insignificant. Perhaps you believed it was simply another ordinary step in your daily routine. Yet heaven often responds to moments that people consider ordinary. The prayer you whispered may have carried more power than you realized. The temptation you resisted may have closed a door that the enemy hoped would remain open. The act of kindness you showed may have positioned you for an encounter that has not happened yet. The decision to trust God rather than panic may have strengthened spiritual foundations that were being tested. God's plans are never limited by human understanding. There are countless details being coordinated every day that you know nothing about. Opportunities are being arranged. Connections are being prepared. Protection is being provided. Paths are being cleared. Obstacles are being addressed before they ever reach your awareness. Heaven is constantly at work on behalf of those who trust God. What makes obedience so powerful is that it demonstrates agreement with God's will. And agreement creates access. The moment you chose alignment this morning, you stepped into a position where heavenly resources could operate more freely within your situation. You may not have noticed anything different externally, but spiritual momentum began increasing. Many chosen ones spend years praying for change while unknowingly resisting the very instructions that would lead them toward it. Yet you responded differently. You moved when God prompted you. You listened when He spoke to your heart. You trusted Him even without complete understanding. That response matters more than you know. There are assignments, blessings, opportunities, and breakthroughs connected to your future that require spiritual preparation. Heaven does not simply drop people into their destiny without preparing the environment around them. Certain doors must open. Certain obstacles must be removed. Certain connections must be established. Certain protections must remain in place. Much of this work happens long before you become aware of it. This is why obedience often produces results that seem unrelated at first. Days, weeks, or even months later, a new opportunity appears. A conversation changes everything. A problem suddenly resolves. A door opens unexpectedly. What seems sudden in the natural realm is often the result of spiritual activity that began much earlier. Your obedience this morning was not an isolated event. It became part of a chain reaction. It communicated trust to heaven. It demonstrated readiness. It revealed a heart that was willing to cooperate with God's direction. And when heaven sees a willing heart, preparation begins for the blessings, opportunities, and divine connections that are already moving toward their appointed time, because the next stage of your journey requires more than personal effort alone. It requires heaven itself to begin repositioning things on your behalf, because the next stage of your journey requires more than personal effort alone. It requires heaven itself to begin repositioning things on your behalf. That is exactly why the events unfolding around you right now may not be random. Heaven is repositioning people, opportunities, and favor around you. One of the greatest mistakes people make during a season of transition is assuming that nothing is happening because they cannot see immediate results. They look at their current circumstances and conclude that everything is the same. The familiar routines remain, the same challenges seem present, the same unanswered questions linger. Yet beneath the surface, God is often rearranging details that will eventually produce a completely different outcome. What makes divine repositioning so remarkable is that it frequently happens without your awareness. While you are focused on today's responsibilities, God is already working on tomorrow's opportunities. While you are wondering how a door will open, He is preparing the people connected to that door. While you are praying for answers, He is organizing circumstances that will eventually reveal them. His process requires trust because it rarely unfolds according to human expectations. Many people imagine that breakthrough arrives through one dramatic event. In reality, God often works through a series of carefully arranged moments. One conversation leads to another. One opportunity creates access to the next. One relationship opens a path that was previously unavailable. Small changes begin creating larger outcomes. The chosen often experience seasons where relationships shift unexpectedly. Certain people drift away. Others suddenly enter their lives. Some connections that once seemed permanent begin fading. At first, these changes can feel confusing. It is natural to wonder why certain individuals are no longer present or why familiar dynamics are changing. Yet God understands who can accompany you into your next season and who cannot. Not everyone assigned to your past is assigned to your future. Some people are connected to a chapter, not the entire story. Their role had a purpose, but their assignment was temporary. When God begins repositioning your life, He sometimes removes distractions, unhealthy influences, and limiting relationships so that new connections can emerge. At the same time, He begins aligning you with people who can support, encourage, challenge, and strengthen you. These individuals may appear unexpectedly. They may come through ordinary circumstances. They may not look important at first. Yet God often uses simple encounters to create extraordinary opportunities. Opportunities themselves are also being repositioned. Doors that once remained closed may suddenly become accessible. Areas where you previously experienced resistance may begin showing signs of movement. Paths that appeared impossible may gradually become clear. This does not happen by accident. It happens because God sees the complete picture while you only see a portion of it. Favor operates in a similar way. Many people think favor means avoiding difficulty, but favor of 10 means receiving divine assistance within the middle of life's challenges. It means being guided toward the right place at the right time. It means encountering opportunities that cannot be explained by human effort alone. It means receiving help from unexpected sources. It means experiencing doors opening that qualifications alone could not unlock. What is happening now may feel subtle, but subtle does not mean insignificant. Every adjustment God makes carries purpose. Every person being positioned has a reason. Every opportunity being prepared has significance. Every door being evaluated serves a role within His greater plan for your life. This is why patience remains important during seasons of divine repositioning. God is not rushing because He is not guessing. He knows exactly where every piece belongs. He knows which opportunities are truly aligned with your destiny and which ones would distract you from it. He knows which relationships will strengthen your future and which ones would weaken it. He knows which doors need to remain closed and which doors are preparing to open. The beautiful truth is that heaven's work does not stop simply because you cannot see it. God continues arranging details beyond your awareness. He continues coordinating circumstances that are moving steadily toward fulfillment. And as these people, opportunities, and moments of favor come into alignment, another reality begins to emerge. Certain plans that once seemed important are no longer necessary because God is actively removing everything that no longer serves the destiny He has prepared for you, because God is actively removing everything that no longer serves the destiny He has prepared for you. This can be one of the most difficult parts of the journey for a chosen person to understand. While everyone celebrates open doors, few people celebrate closed ones. While everyone welcomes additions, very few welcome removals. Yet some of God's greatest acts of protection come through. The things He chooses to take away. The plans that no longer serve your destiny are being removed. There was a time when certain goals, relationships, opportunities, and expectations seemed essential to your future. You prayed for them. You worked toward them. You imagined your life unfolding through them, but God sees beyond the present moment. He sees the consequences of every path long before you arrive there. He knows where each road leads. He knows which opportunities would eventually become burdens. He knows which relationships would limit your growth. He knows which plans would pull you away from the purpose He designed specifically for you. This is why some things do not happen the way you expected. It is not always rejection. It is often redirection. What feels like a setback may actually be protection. What appears to be a closed door may be God preventing you from settling for something that is smaller than what He intends to give you. The chosen frequently experience seasons where carefully constructed plans begin falling apart. At first it feels confusing. Questions arise, doubts surface, frustration builds. You wonder why things that seem so promising are suddenly changing. You wonder why doors that looked perfect refuse to open. You wonder why situations that appeared secure begin shifting beneath your feet. Yet God's removal is never random. Every adjustment serves a purpose. Every closed chapter creates space for a new one. Every delay from the wrong direction protects you from unnecessary detours. God is not simply removing things because they are bad. Sometimes He removes good things because they stand in the way of greater things. This process often requires faith because human beings naturally become attached to their expectations. We become comfortable with our plans. We develop emotional connections to certain outcomes. We imagine specific futures and convince ourselves that they must happen exactly as we envisioned. Then God steps in and begins rewriting the script. What feels painful in the moment often becomes understandable later. Looking back, many people discover that the opportunities they desperately wanted would have limited them. The relationships they tried to preserve would have hindered them. The paths they insisted on following would have delayed them even further. God's wisdom protected them from outcomes they could not foresee. Perhaps there are things leaving your life right now. Perhaps certain opportunities have disappeared. Perhaps certain connections have weakened. Perhaps certain expectations are no longer unfolding the way you anticipated. Instead of immediately assuming something is wrong, consider the possibility that God is making room for something better aligned with your purpose. Heaven cannot fully establish new assignments while old attachments continue occupying the space meant for them. Sometimes God must clear the ground before He can build. Sometimes He must remove outdated structures before establishing stronger foundations. Sometimes He must end one season completely before the next season can begin. The important thing to remember is that God never removes without purpose. Every removal is connected to preparation. Every ending is connected to a beginning. Every closed chapter is connected to a future chapter that has not yet been revealed. Even when you cannot understand the process, God remains intentional in everything He allows. This morning's act of obedience was significant because it showed that you are becoming willing to trust God's direction more than your own understanding. It showed that you are learning to release what He asks you to release. It showed that your confidence is gradually shifting from personal plans to divine purpose. That kind of trust gives God room to reshape your future according to His greater vision. As outdated plans continue falling away, a clearer picture will begin to emerge. The distractions will lose their importance. Nuance. The unnecessary burdens will be lifted. The confusion will gradually give way to clarity. And once the space has been created, heaven can fully reveal the next phase that has been quietly developing behind the scenes, a greater assignment that was designed specifically for you long before you ever recognized its existence. A greater assignment that was designed specifically for you long before you ever recognized its existence. This is the final truth that brings everything together. The obedience you demonstrated this morning, the faithfulness God saw in your heart, the cycle of delay that was interrupted, the heavenly activity that was released, the repositioning that has begun, and the removal of outdated plans are all connected to one purpose. A greater assignment is being prepared specifically for you. Many chosen people spend years asking God for blessings without realizing that He is actually preparing them for responsibility. While blessings are part of the journey, God's ultimate goal is not simply to make your life easier. His goal is to position you where your life can have greater impact. Every season you have endured has been shaping you for something larger than you currently understand. The struggles you faced were not meaningless. The disappointments you survived were not wasted. The delays that tested your patience were not pointless. Even the moments when you felt forgotten carried value. God was using every experience to develop qualities that your future assignment will require. The strength you gained through hardship, the wisdom you gained through mistakes, the humility you gained through waiting, and the faith you gained through uncertainty are all becoming part of your preparation. The chosen often expect their assignment to arrive with immediate clarity. They imagine that one day everything will suddenly make sense, but God usually reveals purpose one step at a time. He provides enough light for the next step while keeping the large picture partially hidden. This keeps you dependent upon Him rather than becoming dependent upon your own understanding. What makes your assignment unique is that it cannot be fulfilled by anyone else in exactly the same way. God has given you specific experiences, specific lessons, specific perspectives. The things that seemed random throughout your life are often connected more closely than you realize. Events that appeared unrelated are forming a pattern. Challenges that felt unfair are becoming part of your testimony. Lessons learned in one season are preparing you for opportunities in another. This is why comparison is so dangerous. When you compare your journey to someone else's, you lose sight of the assignment designed specifically for you. God is not asking you to become another person. He is not asking you to follow someone else's blueprint. He is developing a path that reflects the purpose He placed within you from the beginning. The greater Asig. Nation ahead may involve influencing people, creating opportunities, leading others, serving your community, strengthening your family, encouraging those who are struggling, or opening doors for individuals who need guidance. Its exact form may not yet be fully visible, but its preparation is already underway. Every act of obedience moves you closer to it. What happened this morning mattered because it demonstrated readiness. It showed that your heart is becoming aligned with God's direction. It showed that you are learning to trust Him even when details remain unclear. It showed that your faith is maturing beyond temporary circumstances. There will be moments ahead when you look back on this season and realize that God was doing far more than you understood. The events that seemed ordinary were actually preparation. The delays that frustrated you were actually training. The removals that confused you were actually protection. The repositioning that felt uncomfortable was actually necessary. Right now, heaven is not merely responding to who you are today. Heaven is responding to who you are becoming. God sees the completed picture while you are still living through the process. He sees the purpose hidden inside your struggles. He sees the influence hidden inside your faithfulness. He sees the assignment hidden inside your preparation. So continue walking forward with confidence. Continue choosing obedience when it would be easier to quit. Continue trusting God when answers seem delayed. Continue believing that His plans are greater than your understanding. Because every step of faith you take is bringing you closer to the assignment that heaven has been preparing. The assignment that matches your calling, your growth, your testimony, and your destiny. The assignment that will reveal why God allowed every season of your journey and why. This morning became the moment heaven began recalibrating everything around your life.